Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, men of faith across this nation tonight, I came with a simple message, but a message that carries weight. Don't forget who you are. In a world that labels you, pressures you, and sometimes even breaks you, in a culture that tries to tell you what success looks like and what strength feels like, you must anchor yourself in truth that your identity is not shaped by the world around you, but by the God within you. You are not what you lost. You are not what they said. You are not the mistakes you made. You are who God declared you to be before you ever took your first breath. But hear me, the first thing the enemy ever attacked in humanity was identity. Who told you that you were naked? It wasn't about fruit. It wasn't about the garden. It was about identity. Because if the enemy can make you forget who you are, he can make you walk away from what you're called to do. Some of you tonight are battling storms. Storms in your finances, storms in your family, storms in your spirit. But let this settle in your heart. Your battles do not cancel your calling. Storms refine, they sharpen, they strengthen, but they do not redefine. You may feel weary, but you are not weak. You may feel broken, but you are not defeated. You may feel overlooked, but you are still chosen, because God is not finished with you. Men of faith, listen. Your identity is bigger than your moment. It's bigger than your struggle. It's bigger than your past. You carry a legacy inside you. When you rise, your family rises. When you stand, generations stand. When you walk in who you truly are, heaven backs your footsteps. And tonight, as we gather for this fundraiser, we are not just raising support, we are raising men. We are raising voices, we are raising futures. TBN is not just a network. It's a lifeline for men searching for hope, for direction, for identity. So I urge you tonight, stand boldly, give generously, support faithfully, because when you help remind another man who he is, you change his family, his destiny, his lineage. Before this night ends, let this truth settle in your soul. You are God's workmanship. You are his design. You are his vessel. Don't forget who you are. Here is an expanded version of ** keynote #1 *, around 600 words, powerful, emotional, and in the same preaching style you requested. **, no headings included. **, identity is not something the world hands you like a certificate or a compliment. Identity is something God spoke over you long before anybody knew your name, long before society formed an opinion, long before life scarred you or blessed you. When God formed you, he didn't consult your circumstances, your environment, or your critics. He breathed purpose into you with his own hands, and that purpose became your identity. The world can only describe you, but only God can define you. The world may call you average, but God calls you chosen. The world may see failure, but God sees formation. The world may see weakness, but God sees a warrior in the making. Too many people are living off labels instead of truth. They are carrying names they never agreed to, identities they never asked for. Someone told them they were not enough, and they believed it. Someone told them they were too broken, and they accepted it. Someone told them their past disqualified them, and they allowed that lie to settle into their bones. But identity does not come from human lips. It comes from divine intention. You were not created by accident, and you were not formed without meaning. You were crafted with intention, marked with purpose, and sent into this world carrying a destiny that cannot be erased by human opinion. Sometimes life will push you into places where you start to question who you are. You go through so many storms that you begin to identify with the thunder. You face so much loss that you start believing you're meant to lose. You walk through loneliness so deep that you begin to believe you're unlovable. But identity is not shaped by the seasons you survive. It is rooted in the one who sustains you through those seasons. If a diamond falls in the dirt, it doesn't stop being a diamond. If gold is buried in the mud, it doesn't lose its worth. And if a child of God walks through brokenness, it does not diminish who they truly are. There are moments when you have to remind yourself of what God spoke over you. Not what people said, not what fear whispered, not what failure suggested what God said. He said you were fearfully and wonderfully made. He said you were chosen. He said you were called. He said you were loved. When God speaks identity, he speaks it with eternity in mind. People change, seasons shift, circumstances rise and fall. But God's word concerning you does not return void. Identity is the anchor of destiny. When you know who you are, you stop chasing validation. When you know who you are, you stop apologizing for your calling. When you know who you are, you stop shrinking to fit into rooms you were meant to influence. The world may not understand you, but heaven recognizes you. You carry a signature that only God can write, and hear this: identity is not discovered through comfort, it is revealed through challenge. God will allow situations that squeeze you not to break you, but to show you what he hid inside you. Pressure does not create identity, it exposes it. What God placed in you cannot be crushed by circumstances because it was built for endurance. You are stronger than you think, braver than you know, and more capable than you realize. So stand in the truth of who you are. Don't shrink, don't doubt, don't surrender your identity to opinions, mistakes, or moments of weakness. Remember the voice that spoke you into existence. Remember the hands that shaped your purpose. Remember the God who called you his own. And whatever happens, don't forget who you are. The enemy never begins by attacking your future. He starts by attacking your identity. Because if he can confuse who you are, he can control where you go. If he can distort your reflection, he can derail your direction. Before destiny is ever reached, identity is always tested. That's why so many battles don't come to destroy your body. They come to weaken your belief in who God says you are. It's why circumstances rise up that make you doubt your strength, why people walk away in seasons that make you question your worth, and why failures echo in your mind long after the moment has passed. The true battleground is not your surroundings, it's your sense of self. The enemy knows if you ever recognize who you truly are, you become unstoppable. He knows if you ever awaken to the authority, purpose, and divine strength planted inside you, you won't fear the storm, the valley, or the giant standing in front of you. So he doesn't come after your bank account first, he comes after your belief. He doesn't come after your opportunity first. He comes after your identity. He whispers lies, not because you are weak, but because he knows you carry something powerful. He tries to make you doubt, not because you lack purpose, but because your purpose threatens him. He tried it in the beginning. In the garden, the first weapon wasn't violence. It was a question. Did God really say? That question wasn't about fruit. It was about identity. It was an attempt to plant confusion where clarity once lived. And to this day, the strategy hasn't changed. He asks you, are you sure you're called? Are you sure you're loved? Are you sure you're forgiven? Are you sure you can rise? Not because he knows the answer, he already knows. His goal is to see if you know. When you go through loss, he whispers, maybe you're not enough. When you fail, he whispers, maybe you're not worthy. When you fall into temptation, he whispers, maybe you're broken beyond repair. And if you're not careful, you begin living according to the lie instead of the truth. You start walking with your head down, speaking with less confidence, praying with less belief, dreaming with less courage. That's why identity is so important, because whatever you believe about yourself becomes the fuel for how you live. But hear this clearly, your identity is not up for negotiation. It is not determined by feelings, circumstances, or the opinions of others. It is fixed by the one who formed you. Before life wounded you, before people judged you, before mistakes marked you, God already spoke your name. And when God names you, no lie can unname you. No failure can unmark you. No season can unassign you. This is why the enemy attacks identity first, because he knows that if he can make you forget who you are, he can make you abandon what you're called to do. But the moment you remember your identity, the moment you stand in the truth of who you are, every lie loses its power. Every whisper loses its authority. Every doubt loses its grip. You don't fight the enemy by shouting louder. You fight him by believing deeper. You resist him by remembering. Remember who God says you are. Remember what he has spoken over your life. Remember the strength, the calling, the fire within you. When you hold on to your identity, destiny becomes unshakable. And no enemy can stop a man who knows who he is. Your battles do not cancel your calling. Too many people assume that when life becomes difficult, when obstacles rise like mountains, when prayers seem unanswered, and when the journey stretches longer than expected, it must mean that the calling has been withdrawn. But your calling is not fragile. It is not temporary. It is not dependent on smooth seasons or perfect conditions. The calling on your life is rooted in the eternal will of God, not the unpredictable circumstances of life. Storms may surround you, but storms cannot revoke what heaven has declared over you. There will be seasons when you question yourself. Seasons when you look at your situation and wonder, if I'm truly called, why is life this hard? If I'm chosen, why am I facing so much resistance? If God has assigned me purpose, why does it feel like everything is fighting against me? But the presence of a battle is not the absence of a calling. In fact, battles often emerge because you are called. Purpose attracts pressure. Destiny attracts opposition. The weight on your shoulders is not a sign that you are walking the wrong path. It is confirmation that you are carrying something worth fighting for. Think about every great story ever lived. Nobody reached purpose without walking through opposition. Nobody became strong without meeting resistance. Nobody stepped into destiny without confronting doubts, fears, or setbacks. Even your own life testifies that every meaningful breakthrough you've had came after moments of struggle. Growth requires stretching, faith requires testing, and calling requires enduring. You don't become who you were meant to be by escaping battles. You become that person by standing in them. Sometimes the battle is internal. Sometimes the fight is not with people or circumstances, but with your own thoughts, insecurities, and past experiences. You look at your history and wonder if it disqualifies you. You look at your failures and wonder if they ruined your chances. You look at your weakness and wonder if God picked the wrong person. But hear this: God knew your weaknesses when He called you. He knew the mistakes you would make, the detours you would take, and the struggles you would face. He didn't choose you asterisk after asterisk. You got strong. He chose you so he could make you strong. Your battles do not diminish your calling. They deepen it. They carve character. They shape faith. They teach you how to depend not on your own strength, but on God's. If everything came easily, you would never grow roots. If nothing challenged you, you would never develop spiritual strength. God allows certain battles not to harm you, but to build you. Not to weaken you, but to prepare you. Not to break you, but to awaken the potential that was already within you. There are times when the battle itself becomes the testimony. People will look at your life and wonder how you kept going. They will wonder how you didn't quit when everything seemed stacked against you. They will wonder how you stood tall despite the weight. And your answer will not be your own ability. It will be the calling that refused to let you go. Some callings are so deep, so woven into the fabric of your being, that even in your lowest moments, something inside you whispers, "Get up. Keep going. This is not your end." So don't misinterpret your struggle. Don't let pain convince you that you've lost purpose. Don't let delay make you think destiny has disappeared. You are still called. You are still chosen. You are still appointed. And as long as God's hand is on your life, no battle has the authority to cancel your calling. You can walk through a broken season without being a broken man. Life has a way of hitting you in places you didn't even know were vulnerable. It shakes your confidence, disturbs your peace, interrupts your plans, and pushes you into emotional corners you never expected to stand in. Sometimes the weight of responsibilities, the disappointment of dreams delayed, or the heavy silence of unanswered prayers can make you feel like you're on the edge of collapsing. But feeling broken does not mean you are broken. Wounded does not mean worthless. Shaken does not mean shattered. You can be in a painful place and still possess a powerful purpose. There are moments when you wake up and the strength you used to rely on feels thin. The fire that once burned inside you feels dim. The confidence that carried you through earlier battles seems distant. And in those moments, you may start to believe the lie that your struggle is evidence of weakness. But some of the strongest people are the ones who have walked through seasons that crushed everything except their faith. Some of the greatest leaders, the most grounded men, the most impactful voices are shaped not in comfort, but in crushing. It is the pressure that reveals resilience, and the breaking that brings forth becoming. Your broken season does not change your identity. A cut diamond is still a diamond. A cracked vessel still carries value. A bent tree still stands rooted in the ground. In the same way, your soul can be tired, your heart can be heavy, and your mind can be overwhelmed. And you can still be chosen, still be called, still be covered by God's grace. It is possible to limp and still move forward. It is possible to cry and still be courageous. It is possible to doubt and still keep walking in faith. God doesn't wait for you to be perfect to use you. He meets you in your imperfection and strengthens you from the inside out. Sometimes God allows seasons of breaking because there is something inside you that can only emerge through pressure. Strength you didn't know you had, wisdom you never would have learned in ease, compassion you couldn't have developed without pain, purpose you couldn't have understood without loss. Brokenness is not always punishment. Sometimes it is preparation. What cracks you open can also reveal what God planted in you. Your tears are watering seeds you don't even realize you've sown. Your pain is shaping a version of you that will carry more depth, more humility, more clarity, and more power. And hear this, God does not abandon you in broken seasons. Even when it feels quiet, even when you can't trace his hand, you are still held. Sometimes he is not fixing the situation because he is strengthening the man inside the situation. Sometimes he is not removing the burden because he is enlarging your capacity to carry blessing. Sometimes the heaviness is not a sign that he has left you, but a sign that he is working on you. Broken seasons end. Dawn follows nights. Healing follows wounds. Restoration follows loss. And when God brings you out, you do not come out empty. You come out wiser, stronger, deeper, steadier, and more aligned with who you were always meant to be. You learn that brokenness was not the end of your story. It was the chapter that revealed what you're truly made of. You are not finished. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified. You may feel bruised, but you are still blessed. You may feel weary, but you are still chosen. You may feel cracked, but you are still called. Your season may be broken, but you are not. Purpose demands memory. You cannot walk boldly into your future if you forget the God who carried you through your past. So many people lose their way not because they ran out of potential, but because they lost their sense of spiritual memory. They forgot the moments God opened a door no man could shut. They forgot the nights he held them together when everything around them was falling apart. They forgot the prayers he answered, the battles he fought, the strength he supplied. When memory fades, purpose becomes blurry. But when you remember what God has already done, it reignites the fire to pursue what he has called you to do next. We live in a world that tries to distract you from your destiny. Busy schedules, constant noise, endless comparison, and the pressure to keep up can make you forget the victories you have already survived. You start thinking you made it this far because of your own strength, your own intelligence, your own strategies. But deep down, you know there were moments when strength wasn't enough, when logic failed you, when plans collapsed, and yet you did not. That wasn't luck. That wasn't coincidence. That was God. And if you forget him in the present, you lose the guidance that leads you into the future. Memory is your anchor in unstable seasons, when everything shifts, when people change, when opportunities close, when uncertainty rises. Your memory reminds you that instability is not new. You've walked through uncertainty before. You've survived confusion before. You've conquered seasons you didn't think you would survive. And if God was faithful then, he is faithful now. Purpose becomes clearer when you look back with gratitude instead of forward with fear. But forgetting is easy, and the enemy knows it. The moment you step into hardship, the moment a prayer seems unanswered, the moment a door remains shut longer than expected, he tries to erase your memory of God's past faithfulness. He tries to make you believe that this time is different, that this mountain is too high, this valley too dark, this battle too big. He tries to convince you that God won't come through, as if God hasn't carried you through everything before this moment. Forgetfulness feeds fear, but memory fuels faith. Purpose requires you to remind yourself of who brought you here. Every time doubt rises, call your memory to attention. Every time fear whispers, remind yourself of the last victory. Every time discouragement pulls you down, pull up the record of God's faithfulness in your life. You can't move into your calling while forgetting the one who called you. You can't stand in purpose while losing sight of the God who shaped that purpose in the first place. Your past testimonies are not just stories, they are spiritual weapons. They arm you with confidence. They silence lies. They stabilize your heart. They sharpen your vision. They remind you that if God healed you once, He can heal you again. If He provided before, He will provide again. If He lifted you once, He will lift you again. Your memories of His faithfulness create momentum for your future. Purpose also demands that you remember who you are. Because sometimes the problem isn't forgetting God, it's forgetting yourself. You forget the strength you've shown. You forget the battles you've survived. You forget the anointing you carry. You forget the resilience that has kept you standing. When you lose sight of the victories inside you, you walk like a defeated man, even though heaven sees you as more than a conqueror. So strengthen your memory, revisit your testimonies, speak your gratitude, recall your journey. Purpose cannot grow in forgetfulness. It thrives in remembrance. And as long as you remember where God has brought you from, you will never fear where He is leading you next. When a man remembers who he is, everything connected to him begins to shift. Identity is not a private matter, it is generational. The strength you carry flows into the home you lead. The faith you walk in becomes the foundation your children stand on. The decisions you make ripple into the future long after you are gone. When a man stands firmly in the truth of his God-given identity, he becomes more than an individual. He becomes a pillar, a covering, a guidepost for generations that follow. But when a man forgets who he is, confusion enters not only his own life, but the lives of those connected to him. So the call to remember your identity is not just for you. It is for every life attached to your destiny. There is something powerful about a man who knows who he is. He carries himself differently. He speaks with conviction. He walks with purpose. He loves with intention. He leads with humility. He stands with courage even when life knocks the wind out of him. Because identity gives stability, when the world shakes, a man rooted in identity remains unmovable. When circumstances test him, he does not crumble. When temptation calls him, he does not detour. When the enemy tries to distract him, he stays focused. A man who knows who he is becomes dangerous to anything that tries to destroy him, but men forget. They forget because of pressure. They forget because of pain. They forget because they're trying to hold the world on their shoulders. Many men walk around carrying silent battles, hidden fears, unspoken disappointments, and in the silence of their struggle, they begin to shrink inside. They start to think they're not enough. They start to question their purpose, their leadership, their place in the world. And when a man doubts his identity, he begins to move like a shadow of himself instead of the warrior God designed him to be. Every man must be reminded, you are not just living for today. You are shaping tomorrow. The way you respond to adversity teaches your sons what strength looks like. The way you treat your family teaches your daughters what love feels like. The way you handle pressure, setbacks, and responsibility becomes a blueprint for those watching you. Even when you feel unnoticed, someone is learning from you. Even when you feel unimportant, someone is depending on your example. You are a living legacy. Generational impact doesn't come from perfection. It comes from identity. Your children don't need you to be flawless. They need you to be faithful. They need you to be present. They need you to be rooted in who God says you are. Because when a man stands in his identity, he breaks cycles. He heals wounds he never received apologies for. He builds bridges over gaps he didn't create. He becomes the first in his family to change patterns, to shift atmospheres, to rewrite futures. And here is the truth that every man must embrace. Your past cannot disqualify you from becoming a generational man. Your mistakes, your failures, your struggles, they do not remove your ability to impact your lineage. In fact, sometimes the greatest leaders emerge from the deepest struggles. Sometimes the strongest men come from the hardest backgrounds. Sometimes the most influential fathers rise from the most broken childhoods. Because God specializes in turning wounded men into warriors and scarred men into shepherds. When you remember who you are, you give your family something to stand on. Your faith becomes their foundation. Your courage becomes their confidence. Your integrity becomes their inheritance. And long after you leave this world, your identity lives on in the generations you shape. So stand firm, walk boldly, lead with conviction, not just for yourself, but for the generations watching your footsteps. Because when a man remembers who he is, the whole world around him begins to change.